Well, good evening there, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with a brand new Civil 3D live stream. Currently, we're going to be working on using feature lines to modify a grading in this episode, more or less. And in this live stream, it's going to be a continuation from the course that I've been building here on my YouTube channel for Civil 3D 2023 to 2024 Grading Essentials. If you go to the channel homepage and select this, we're going to be continuing on the subject of grading, particularly with feature lines. So that is what we're working from. You can obtain the exercise files essentially from one of these videos within this course. I'll go ahead and navigate back to the home page here. But yeah, we're just going to be diving into feature lines with this particular stream. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Make sure my chat windows open up here. Okay. Oops, don't want to do that. Oh no, not again. Okay. All right, now, using feature lines to modify a grading. Currently, I'm in the 12 grading-6 drawing, actually the final drawing. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this, we'll call this 13. Call this 13, and then click Save here, just to get my stuff in order. Okay, correction. We're in the 13 grading-6 final drawing, and I'm working with my building pad. And with my building pad, I've been creating this grading all around. As you can see, if I were to select this piece right here, this is actually a feature line, but if I select one of these these diamonds, I've got my grading. This is actually an infill grading. If I wanted to check out my cut slope display here, here's another grading that's connected to that infill grading. So each of these are feature lines, as you can see in my properties. So gradings are basically built upon feature lines, and they also create feature lines as you build them up. But what happens is, right around these arcs, if I look at these, like for example, if this was a parking lot island, okay, around these arcs, in order for a feature line to show my grading correctly, you can see that we've got all this jagged geometry around my arc. And if you don't see it right now, you'll see it in the future. I'll go ahead. With my top-down view, what I'll do is I'll go into View, and then I'll select, rather than 2D wireframe, I'm going to go with 3D wireframe. So I can see all of the tin lines that are making up or producing my geometry. So if you look around this arc for this particular island, we've got some tin lines that are showing up here that are producing more or less kind of like the points that go around this arc. And as you can see, we really don't have a whole lot of points along this arc. I mean, it's really not triangulating too well around this arc, which is giving us kind of like this jagged geometry around this arc. So the way that I solve that is I go about smoothing my feature line arcs, okay? So I'll do that. Let me pull up my notes here. I'll go into my Home tab, select Grading, go to Grading Creation Tools, then we get our toolbar. And what I need to do first is, if I select this button, Grading Group Properties, I select this, make sure that we're in the proper group name, we're good there. Then I select this again. Now I get my properties. And what I'm going to do is, since we don't have a surface created for this particular group, I'm going to go ahead and create it. I'm going to click this button for automatic surface creation. I'm going to accept this surface. And then right here is where it's very important. Tessellation spacing. So in other words, we're going to be telling Civil 3D that we want a lot more tessellation to happen around our arc. Currently it's set to no more than 10 feet. I'd like it to be a little bit tighter around my arc in order to generate more smoothing. So rather than 10, I'm going to go with 1 foot spacing, okay? So no more than a foot around my arc is going to be basically a 10 line that's going to be generated around that arc. So I'll select OK. And as of right now, it doesn't look like anything's really happened. If I close this down, yeah, nothing's really happened. However, if I type in M for move, and I select my original blue building pad feature line, I press enter. For displacement, select enter once again. And then to specify displacement, I'm looking at my command line right now. It's going to be 0, 0. I'm going to accept that by pressing enter. And now you can see how that generated more 10 lines around my arc. And you can see that the way that this is triangulating makes a little bit more sense. And you can see within my 3D view that as we go around this arc, it's making a little bit more sense in the way that Civil 3D is triangulating around that arc. Okay, so that's how you go about smoothing feature line arcs. And this is particularly important when you get into situations to where you're looking to make sure that you're getting an accurate surface for, let's just say, like for parking lot entrances. You know, when you're generating feature lines around those entrances, you want to make sure that the tessellation is set to a good number, a nice tight number, because as you go around this, you know, if the tessellation is a little bit too, if it's spread too wide, then it's not going to show up accurately, and that can be a little bit of a nuisance when you're looking to grade, or even, let's just say you're looking to profile maybe your proposed entrance to your parking lot. You know, if you have tessellation that isn't triangulating properly, then you're going to get all kinds of jagged lines within, say, a proposed profile for an entrance. So that's that. We're going to continue here. We're going to move on to adjusting grading triangulation with a feature line. I'm going to do a save as of this. We're going to call this 14. Oh, actually, let's move into 7. Okay, adjusting grading triangulation with a feature line. We're going to go into, I'm going to zoom out a bit here. Zoom out a little bit over here too. I don't know if you can see what's going on here with my 3D view, but it's basically just the isometric view of my building pad. I'll zoom in a little bit more just because I'm looking to focus in on this area. Okay, and as you can see within the 3D view, we've got some weirdness going on right here. If I right click and I do a free orbit, this 3D face looks fairly smooth. It looks like it's triangulating properly. However, I've got some weirdness going on in this region. It almost looks like there's a low point that's been generated right here. So I want to be able to more or less correct that. And not only that, I want to maybe, I guess, create sort of like a ditch that's coming around and flowing out of my grading. So the way that I accomplish that is I'll go into my layer control, and I know that if I come down, there's a layer here called C Topo Feature Cross. I'm going to turn that on. And there's a polyline that shows up. I'm going to exit out of this. There's a polyline that shows up with circles A, B, and C. If I select this polyline, you can see that it's a polyline. It's got an elevation of 400 right now. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this polyline into a feature line. We'll go into feature line, create feature line from objects. You can more or less think of this as sort of like a ditch or a swale. We'll select this, press enter, and now we get our create feature lines dialog box. We want to make sure that we're in the correct site. The only site that we've got, well, we've got site 1, but we want to make sure that we're in the grading-building pad site. Go ahead and make sure that we erase existing entities after we create our feature line. We won't need that polyline anymore. And we're going to assign elevations. Then click OK. We get our Assign Elevations dialog box. Then we're going to assign our elevations from a surface. Rather than the existing grade surface, I'm going to select my grading group surface. And we're going to insert intermediate grade points. I'd like to have some points to work with, and those intermediate grade points are going to be points where the tin line crosses our feature line. Okay, so we're going to have one right here and one right here. Then click OK. So you can see how it's affecting the triangulation. And if I look, it kind of cleared up. Did it clear up that little low point right there? No, not really. It's still a little funky in that area. Now, if you look at our feature line right now, and we bring up our grading elevation editor, you can see that if I select the first row, A is at station 00, okay? And it's currently picking up the elevation from our building pad feature line, which is at 400. So if I want to select my building pad, let's move this over here so we can see. If I want to select my building pad feature line, I'll select this button. Or at least I'll select it once again. Okay, here we go. I'll select the building pad, and it's more or less at 400. If I come around here, where am I at? 400, there we go. So my feature line is, so my swale feature line, or my ditch feature line, is picking up the elevation again from that building pad. But the thing is that a lot of times the building pad elevation is changing all the time. So what's dictating so what will dictate the elevation in the future? Well, the last edited feature line. So if I come into right now I'm currently on my building pad feature line. That's what's selected. If I come in here and I do a shift select and I change my building pad elevation from 400 to, let's just say, 405. Look what happens to my feature line for my swale. Actually, one thing you have to be concerned with is the display orders. So right now, if I select my feature line, right-click, select display order, because it's selecting the grading. I don't want to select my grading. I want to select my feature line. There we go. Now I've got my feature line selected. And if I go into my quick elevation editor and I hover over point A, we're at 405. So you see that's how whenever feature lines are crossing, then the last edited feature line is what's going to dictate the elevation. Okay, so the next thing, what I'd like to do is, since this building pad is at 405 right now, and let's rotate, let's do a free orbit around here. You can see that there's a lot going on over here, and we've more or less generated a ditch based upon raising our building pad to 405. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a smooth transition swale to this side of my grading. And the way that I go about doing that, here, let me get this into a good position so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to select my feature line. Again, it's selecting the grading again, so I need to right-click, display order, send to back. Now select my feature line. And again, I want a smooth transition to this point. So what I'll do is I'll go into my grading elevation editor. What's a good spot to place this? Right now I'm currently at 405. I'd like to more or less flatten this feature line. And the way that I do that is if I select this button to flatten grade or elevations, I select this. Oops. Where am I at here? You select 2 or more rows. Okay, we'll just select all of these. Flatten. I want it at a constant grade. Then click OK, and there you go. We've got a nice smooth transition, and you can see that our slopes are consistent throughout this feature line now. So now this is just a nice smooth transition to this point, and you can even see it reflected in our contours. So this is more or less just a way to be able to edit a lot of your feature lines, to be able to smooth out your feature lines, and to create just this nice consistent grade from one end to the other. And I know that sometimes it can be a little bit cumbersome when you're dealing with editing feature lines, and when you select it, it's selecting the grading, and you have to select it, display order, send it back, and that can be a little bit cumbersome, but it is what it is, folks. But again, this is just building upon the Grading Essentials course that we've been going through with the members. If you're interested in becoming a member with the Civil 3D subscription, I highly recommend that you join us. If you need a little bit of a refresher on building a grading, and a lot of the Grading Essentials videos more or less gets straight to the point. A lot of these videos, it's essentially just coursework, and there's also exercise files that are down below in the description that you can follow along as we go through generating our gradings. And again, what we just went through is going to be built upon this course. Feature lines are going to be feature line videos are going to be showing up within this members only course, but I just like to give those that are interested in the live stream just a chance to be able to see how these videos are going to be coming together. So until next time, take care. Where are we at here? We are at more or less about 20 minutes or so. That's easy enough for people to kind of go through and just review what we just went over. And again, if you're interested in becoming a member, I highly recommend it. Take care, folks. God bless.